If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
America.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. I think it's 691 or 692. I mean, we're closing in on 700. Coming at you this week with Andrew Gough from across the pond, coughing up some good stuff. Got everybody's favorite podcaster, Grandma Lama Ding Dong Dunlop. How's it going there over in?
Good. Yeah, this will be 693, the magic numbers of 3, 6, and 9.
The camera's weird. I can see your gut, but not the banner.
Yeah, I'll move it up a bit.
No, you don't have to move it up. We're not recording video anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going good, man. I got a beautiful view of this prairie sunrise this morning. Felt like minus 39 or so. It was actually minus 29.
Felt like now? First winter on the prairies, and you're already doing felt like?
Yeah, I'm doing felt like all of a sudden because it's fucking windy everywhere.
Yeah, you got to factor in that.
Prayers too. No, my face was really burning this morning when I was trying to shovel out the car, and
yeah, if you get to going into the wind, man.
Yeah, but it's beautiful sunrise in the prairies, and it's going good. Yeah, I got the studio all finished, got the drywall on the outside of the walls now, the insulation, so I cannot hear anything going on in the rest of the house.
That's
and
nice.
They can't hear me, and there's no echo in this room. It's pretty good. So yeah, I'm happy.
It's minus 25 here right now.
Yeah.
But it says feels like minus 31.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But it warms right up again. So by the
problem is, the feels like here's like 14 degrees below the other temperature usually. 10 to 14 degrees.
Well, Balzac Billy didn't see his shadow. So they say it's early spring. I think the other one. The one from the Gobbler's Knob there. What's his name? Punkatella Pete or whatever. Punkatella Pete. He did see his shadow. So they got 6 more weeks of winter coming.
Phil, maybe? Puxatani Phil?
Puxatani Phil. That might be him, yeah.
I don't get this thing.
Anyway, Balzac Billy, he did not see his shadow. So early spring. That's what my kids tell me. Early spring, baby.
What is that? I mean, the problem is where I am, they don't even, I mean, nothing counts as spring until May long weekend, I think. I mean, they really wait for certain things like outdoor things for May long weekend. That's a long winter. So I'm hoping for like early March, I'm hoping for like end of March. At least it's going to warm up a bit so the snow starts melting because it just piles up and piles up. It never melts. Like in Alberta, you get that sort of like.
Mine mostly melted.
Almost you get that like thaw, freeze with the Chinook there, but now here it just never goes above zero.
It was above zero here. It was above freezing for Americans. It was probably 45 for a week straight. But it still got chilly at night. Now it's cold though, cold as fuck, but not as bad as last year. It's not bad. I'm not complaining. There's only like, the next 2 weeks don't look terrible. And then there's really only 2 more weeks until we're into that March, which it might snow a bunch. It might not be beautiful. But even if Balzac Billy is wrong and it is an extended winter, it's usually just snow, a lot of snow. It's definitely not minus 40.
Yeah, we're going to pass. That's what the thing about getting through February gets you through those real cold spells. Like I can handle anything that's warmer than minus 20. I can.
Yeah, and I mean, it costs money too. After minus like 20, 25, it's for every like 5 or 10 degrees below that. It's like, and after 50%,
Oh.
My bill double, triple maybe, if it was minus 40 for a month compared to minus 20.
How much extra carbon tax is that, I wonder? Like
You know,
50
touch
bucks.
wood, it's been nice enough of a winter that I haven't had any bills nearly the size of last year yet. So even with the carbon tax added on, you know, we've been pretty lucky. We kind of settled into the floors this year. So if you have the heated floors on, I mean, last year I just moved in here and the carbon tax was coming in and my bill is just fucking crazy. So I was trying to like assess what is making the bill so crazy.
Yeah. What was it?
I had the floors off. So it turns out just having the floors on all the time, even though it can get a little warm in the basement, just open the window. Really makes a difference on heating the rest of the house. And then we use the fireplace a lot more.
So the floor's on and the fireplace on, and then that helps with the bill because it just keeps the warm air rises, and so the floor.
Yeah, my bill's been about $600. You know, 650. Under 700 anyway, and I didn't hit 700 yet. And
is that just for
this year? My February 11th bill last year was fucking $1,150.
Is that gas and electricity, or what is that?
Yeah, that's gas and electricity, and that'd be, you know, everything, water, dump, all of it, because technically it's just my gas and electricity, but my electricity runs all of my water and my sewage. So I don't have to pay for that I'm sure you're paying. You know, and when I was in Chestermere, it was $150 a month to pay for that.
Yeah, my water is about $150 a month, probably. My water is more expensive per month. My water and my garbage for the city.
Yeah, my water. So that's how it was. Is my water and my sewage was built in with my garbage, and it was $150.
That's more than my electricity and my gas here.
So I don't have to pay that at all here. So I save that. So, you know, if you're to take that out of, then that puts me in that 450 range, which really isn't terrible. You know, and we don't like, I'm not like penny pinching on the, you know, I don't watch the thermostat. I don't, you know, my kids would tell you otherwise because I don't let them leave the fucking door wide open all the time. It's like they'll have the heat turned up and the windows open. But, you know, for the most part, we keep it where we want it for heat, and I don't like water. Honestly, I used to watch power. I used to worry about power and like how much power I was using because I can get to using a lot of power. You get to heating the fucking this, and I'm heating the thing to keep horse water from freezing, chicken water from freezing.
Charging your Tesla, you know.
I don't have a Tesla, but I haven't had to plug in my vehicles yet this year. That I think that, you know, probably another. I'm sure that ain't super cheap. But I forget what I was going to say now. You interrupted me. You fucked me up. No.
Didn't watch that.
Then when I looked at my bill, we went over the bill on the other show on Outlawed, and it was so much of it was just taxes and fees that aren't even related to usage. It's just like a flat fee. So my bill is a $200 flat fucking fee on a $310 electricity bill or a $280 electricity bill. And I'm like, so when I look at like what I'm actually using for electricity, it's like I could double this and my bill would only go up like 20%. I could use 2 or 3 times the electricity I'm using before it'd even like catch up to my distribution charge and stuff like that. My distribution charge is $189 a month. And then my electricity is like fucking 90.
Gotta be based on kilowatt, no?
It is based on kilowatt, but I'm paying, you know, I'll use like 1,200 or 1,300 kilowatt hours or whatever, and I'm paying like 10 cents or less or 8 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever it is. Even if I say I'm paying 10 cents, just for the sake of the argument, I'm paying 10 cents. I will call it 1,300 kilowatt hours. So my bills, so I've used $130 worth of electricity in that month, but my electricity charge is going to be $400 plus, you know, then over above $250 for gas and heat. But my electricity bill is going to be, so it'll be $130 worth of fucking electricity used, and then $189 flat fee for a distribution charge, and then another $75 flat fee for a transmission charge, and then plus my gas usage. plus another transmission charge, plus the carbon tax.
Is that,
Good.
so
And the other thing is, so that distribution charge is the carbon tax.
they just
Is
named
that
it.
went up by
They should
about?
be allowed to name it something else.
Well, they're paying the tax, not me. So no, they shouldn't. If I was them, I would put it right on the bill so you could see it. Hey, motherfucker, because all the power, and well, not all of it, but 88% of all the power I'm using is made from fucking natural gas. So they're paying the fucking carbon tax to buy the natural gas to burn it to make electricity. What are you gonna do? It's the way she goes. We're almost through it. A few more weeks. Hasn't been too cold. I'm not complaining. Yeah, it's pretty hard to play. If we get through it like this, and I'm thinking by this point, this has got to be the last winter with the carbon tax, right? I mean, what do you think? Are we get rid of the carbon tax?
No, you kidding me? I mean, I don't want to get into politics in this intro here, but I mean, Carney's going to swoop in as your unelected liberal leader, make it seem like it's closer than you think with all the messed up polls that we've already seen happening with these propaganda polls, and then they're going to steal it, and it's going to be close enough. Everybody's going to think it's close enough.
Polls have already fizzled out. The polls have already fizzled out. It's back up to like a
no,
there's no chance it's not happening.
Carney's
not only that, now they have to do an election a lot sooner, right?
Carney's just going to talk about building, getting rid. He's already said he's going to get rid of the carbon tax. So, but he's going to pull in some other weird things where other things get sort of certified by the government.
Now, there's zero chance the Liberals will win this election. No chance.
They're not going to win. I don't know. I don't think
we should have a show bet.
We should have a show bet. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Pierre's going to be any much different.
No, he'll be terrible. He'll be fucking terrible, but he'll cut the carbon tax.
Well, it's going to get cut either way. Now that you mention it, it's going to get cut either way because Carney already said he would. Not that I believe him, but
Carnival Carney.
Yeah, he's already acting like he's in the government. It's crazy.
I don't know. He seems like the most hated guy in fucking history. Like here's the thing: when Trudeau come in, love him or hate him, he had a fucking buzz about him. You know what I mean?
Well, he legalized weed too. I forgot about that.
Legalized weed, and he had this buzz around him. You couldn't fucking deny it. And at that time, we weren't into pop culture politics yet, so nobody was fucking really paying attention to the fact that it wasn't that bad. It could go a lot worse. And we got fucking rimrolled. We got fucking rimrolled pretty good on that one.
Done real good.
But you could see him coming. There was like a buzz about him, I guess, for lack of a better word. You could see, and Carney came out expecting that buzz, and he's just falling flat. And he's just
are you kidding me? He's totally getting held up by the whole liberal establishment.
100,000 Twitter followers. I mean, when he catches Marty up north with Twitter followers, then I'll start to worry.
You got to give him some time. He's been pretty stealthy in the background right now.
Nice.
I was trying to think of a meme. I mean, I don't know if we should even talk about this, but yeah, actually, Andrew, this is okay for the Andrew intro. But I was looking for a meme. Did you see me asking for that meme?
No, I didn't.
Trump and Trudeau meeting, and Carney's in the background, pulling the strings and trying to sell heat pumps to Trump.
I want to be the.
You want to buy some heat pumps?
I want to be the fentanyl czar.
There you go. America can be your fentanyl czar. There you go.
Oh, he pays good, man. That's $1 million a year gig. Just to chase Fent. I feel like I'd have a good eye for it. Good eye.
I'm sure you need to be coming from. I mean, what are your qualifications to be a fentanyl czar?
I don't know. I hate Fent. I hate that shit so much. I just want to czar it up. I want to have a war. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it's hard. We got to talk a little bit about, because for most of our audience in the States, I don't think it's as big a news as it has been in Canada. I actually seen like a couple people post that it's like, this is all, Canada's all riled up, but this is like the 4th or 5th or 6th biggest story in the US right now. the news cycle's moving so fast. There's been like 3 fucking plane crashes since the last
FBI
show.
protests outside the building. The USAID is getting torn down. I mean, everything's happening in Canada. Everybody's freaking out and booing for the American national anthem in the hockey games.
Anyway,
I call them the neo-patriots. All of a sudden, everybody's on Team Canada. It's like, where have you been since 2022, you jackasses? It's so annoying.
Fuck Team Canada. I mean, honestly.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so frustrating. All of a sudden, Team Canada, buy Canadian. To take the U.S. liquor out of the liquor stores that we've already paid for in the government liquor stores. Like, good virtue signal. Like, maybe not fill the shelves up as fast if you want, but I mean, you're just taking them off the shelf when you've already bought them. Good job. You're going to lose revenue. Oh, it's just so painful. Meanwhile, like, people should have been buying Canada and buying local all along. What it takes this to get people to start thinking about buying,
because the companies they think they're buying.
I know.
Canadian.
Well, some of them say made in Canada. My toilet paper and my paper towels are made in Canada. It says it right.
Yeah, but where's the money going? Is it
I know. But at least it's in a factory that somebody's working at.
We don't have shit.
I know we don't.
I mean, it's probably some of the factory
milk and butter. I mean,
hopefully
we got to do a show on the dairy.
Be nice. We'll do that on the other show sometime. Anyway, we had a total meltdown over here. The entire fucking country went into fucking meltdown mode. And even it was neat because a bunch of people came around during COVID, I hate to say it, but I hate to toot our own horn, but we're kind of OGs when it comes to certain things. Like, just like doing this. We've been doing this, kind of paying attention to things quietly
before Trudeau legalized weed.
Is it 12 years or 13 years now? 12 years, right? 12 years?
12 years? Yeah, 12.
It's 2013. This will be the 12th
12 years. Yeah. No. It'll be our 12th anniversary.
12th anniversary. Yeah.
13th year coming up in a couple months.
That's one way of looking at it. Anyway, so that's just neat to see that because, people you think maybe are on your side, but people that seem like they get it. And they just sort of like, right off the rails when something like this happens. And they're like, I'll never go to America again.
It reminds me of COVID again. It reminds me of COVID. It's like, the TV told me to be on Team Canada. All of a sudden, it's like
table salt fucking. I mean, even these counterculture guys that we're like using their stuff for our roundups and stuff like that. I mean, table salt said it was the best Trudeau speech he's ever seen. He's like, love him or hate the guy. It's the best speech I've ever seen from Trudeau. And I'm like,
that could be correct. I mean,
no, man. I watched it. It was fucking garbage. It was the same drama teacher fucking drivel it always is with the. And I mean, it was. You might as well just replay the COVID speech. Was the COVID speech the best speech ever? Fucking no. It's fucking garbage. Insincere garbage. But I mean, I got. Jeremy McKenzie was yelling at me. He's asking if I would rather be in some fucking Israeli fucking Jew country getting drafted for some Israeli war. And I'm like, I don't know what Israel has to do with fucking Western Canada getting shafted constantly from fucking Eastern Canada. I don't know what the fuck to tell you guys, but clearly we're part of a different Canada. I mean, that's kind of what I said to him. I was like, we're just part of different cultures, I guess. Like, the Canadian culture that you're so adamantly defending, though, does not fucking exist.
Oh, he's talking about Nova Scotia because he's like Nova Scotia, like, right?
I don't know. He's talking about Canada. I mean, when he's up in arms, it's Canada and blah, blah, blah. Because he was, I think, fired up about Trump stealing Canada. I'm just like, well, or Alberta. And I was like, if Alberta goes to fucking States, it's going to be fucking willingly, So it's not like I think it was about a Danielle Smith trade or this or that. And it's like, but Alberta's like right here, like there's nobody fucking freaking out in the streets right now about what Danielle Smith is doing. Everyone seems pretty happy with their government. And if we chose to join the States, we would do it, via some sort of vote. It just seems like a weird thing that there's these, it's like, maybe I'm jaded, but after doing this show for so long, you kind of lose any of that sort of patriotic fucking gusto. for, I mean, Canada or America, really. I mean, but America just seems like a better deal because it's a little freer. That's the one thing I think you learn to appreciate more than anything is little bits of fucking freedom. Where can I just be left alone a little bit more?
Yeah, well, less taxes. I mean, people are talking about how just more economical homes are. You can save more. You can, you pay less taxes. Businesses seem to thrive a little bit more. I mean, it's really.
And we talk about the healthcare here, but you and I aren't interested in the fucking healthcare anyway. Let's be honest. We've done 150 or 200 interviews on alternative healthcare that we're not allowed to do in Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and I don't go to the doc. I don't go to the doctor. I try not to go.
But either way, it's just, I mean, it's just because they're just turning into state puppets. So the same people who would have been fucking, just think of the rallying cry of going into Iraq for weapons of mass destruction and all, it's just like it's like a little mini 9/11. It didn't even take, it's like a Canada 9/11. It didn't even take a real traumatic event, just the threat of some tariffs. And everyone's like fucking
Which you've been talking about for 2 months.
Everyone's fucking
They
scared.
knew it was coming. And nobody addressed the real reason what his ask was.
Because
nobody wanted to address it.
Yeah, fucking was
Actually, except for
he would do tariffs
Ben
too. And
Smith
it's
and
like,
no.
if he doesn't do tariffs, he's gonna lose the election. I mean, if he doesn't at least say he's gonna do that, because the country is so idiotic and riled up right now it kind of just shows you how ready to fucking hate fucking Americans Canadians are. That's real kind of eye opening because you don't really see it going the other way so much. You know what I mean? Like we had Trudeau in here for the last little while. And nobody's been like, fuck Canada or fuck Canadians or, but it didn't take long. It sure didn't take long before most of Canada was like, fuck the USA over just bullshit, over just like, I mean, we've done all the segments on our other show. We're not supposed to talk about it here, but we've just done countless segments on how there's a giant fucking Indian and fentanyl epidemic in Canada. It's become a running gag for over a year straight on our other podcast about immigration and drug problems. We've decriminalized it. I mean, you could get crack pipes and vending machines and you could just get drugs from the pharmacy and you wouldn't go to jail for fentanyl. And they tried to push it out nationally and we barely escaped it by the skin of our teeth. And they wonder why, we have a fentanyl.
But I mean, it's not that's not even the problem. It's the crime that goes along with it that they're not clamping down on, right? I think the way Portugal did it was like, you still can't, I'm not sure if it's using in the street as a good example or not, but like there's
I'm sure in Portugal you can't have a giant,
right?
You can't make a giant fentanyl producing laboratory.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
And then use in the street and crimes get like probably harsher penalties. I mean, this is the problem with the soft on crime thing is people just feel like they can do anything right now. I got backed into today. Dude, I got backed into today. This is twice. This is twice now.
Was he high?
What?
Was he high?
It was a young girl who barely got her license. Her window was all covered in snow. We're parked behind her at the gas station.
Oh, whoa. I have questions. Was she
Yes. And she just was like all like it was no big deal. She was like ripping backwards in the gas by the gas pumps, and we're like, bah, 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 on the horn, boom! She smashes into the truck. And I get out. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, is your truck okay? Is your truck okay? I'm so sorry, but I don't care about my car. Like she just didn't care about her car. Like, and then of course the guy I was with, super nice guy, is like, oh yeah, it's just a couple scratches, no worries. And I'm like, you should clean your window off. You can't even if you tried to look at us, you wouldn't be able to see us. And then she just like, I think she kind of turned around into the other gas pumps and a bunch of other kids got in the cars and they just went away like it was no big deal. I'm like taking a picture of her license plate. Like, I'm like, dude, you were pretty nice to her. And he's like, oh yeah, it's just scratched, like, just another scratch on the bumper. But I mean, it was hard enough where pieces of her car fell off.
Was it?
And it happened to me in the little town I'm in. This old guy was backing up. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to hit me. And I'm honking the corner. I put in reverse and I tried to get away from him and he just tapped me. And then later on, like his daughter's texting, like, "Oh, you hit my dad in the street." I'm like, "Oh my god, he backed into me." Like, don't even give me that. It was just like weird.
They tried to extort you.
They tried to, yeah. And meanwhile, I was getting a new bumper out of him. I was like, "Well, you owe us a new bumper because we can't fix the scratch, dude."
Did you get your new bumper?
No, because then his
You never
daughter's
get
like,
that.
"Oh, he's got cancer," and he was all stressed out because he's got cancer. And it's like, well, don't back up on the main street when you don't know who's behind you.
Oh man.
It's just unbelievable. So weird. So I've been backed into twice.
This week, in a week, or
No. It's been a few months.
interesting. Have you backed in anybody?
I mean, I have in my lifetime. Yeah,
Not recently.
not recently. No, it's just weird to see the young kid with like the attitude of the young kid. Like it's no big deal. It's like,
What else do you expect from a young kid?
no big deal. And they just get in the car, and she just didn't even. She's just all like
I feel
bubbly.
like it wasn't a boy, he probably would have called you a faggot.
Yeah. She said, "Sir, okay, sir. Sorry, sir." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm called sir." I felt really old.
Dude, you're stir as shit. You're like fucking mister. You got gray fucking Jew hair going on. You're in your 50s. I mean, yeah, you're sir for sure.
I know it's hard.
Yeah,
to
like,
accept
slick back,
sometimes.
you look like even maybe like a business sir or something.
Yeah.
You could be a father, a reverend. There's no pastor over here at the Strathmore Church. You could be the guy. Maybe that could be your gig.
No, I don't want to be a reverend.
Why not you just work one day a week? It's a good
Just
stuff.
on Sundays, that's it.
Anyway,
Have you been going? Have you been going there?
we went the one time, but she didn't get out of bed this time, so
Oh,
I'm not.
Didn't take long.
It's not my thing, so I'm not like She's like, I don't want to get up. I'm like, okay, cool. I got work to do. If you want to go, I'll take you.
Yeah.
If you don't, that's fine too. See what she decides. It'd be cool. We do need some supporters, guys. We're into February now. I mean, most of you are in America. Let's be honest. You guys, our audience, about 80% American.
We love you.
We love you. We love you. We want to be with you. We're in.
No boo in here. We're on like Team America, really.
Team
I don't even want to. We
World
might lose
Police.
a few Canadian listeners after all
Team
this.
America, fucking world police. Most of the American people, the Canadian listeners that we have, are actively trying to get out of the country. So that's probably fine.
Actually, I wanted to look up those stats of how many people have moved into Canada and moved out of Canada into the States.
It's going to get crazy if the tax rates keep getting lower down there. I mean, it's hard for me not to even think about it,
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of Dodge. Not yet, though. I'm going to stick it out here for a while yet. Anyway, speaking of stick it out, we've been sticking it out for going on 12 years now. It's value for value, hoping that the people who get some value from our going on 700 podcasts here find it and maybe send some value back our way. And we are in dire need of some value over here in Grimerica. If you haven't sent anything in a while, maybe now's the time. Head over to grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation today. Whatever you can do, it really helps. Listen, there's a ton of people listening. If we could get if all you gave $10 for the year, we would just shut the fuck up. We'd be done for the year. We wouldn't say nothing. Next January, give us 10 more bucks. We just stop talking about it. But we're not there yet. Support just sort of dwindling. Now you guys are powering up. You can get to that Grimerica lordship or ladyhood for like $650 American, maybe $700 American. That's going to get you there. I mean, that's substantial. So you might want to look into that. It's probably about $700 US. Actually, gets you right up to that $1,000. Get you a lord or a lady of Grimerica, or you don't have to do that. Like I say, that $5, $10, $1 even will get you a noble. And we do have some people to thank. Well, we have one person to thank, technically, going back to Jimmy Davis, the fat guy in Missouri. Again, I think there's a 5th or 6th month in a row coming up with that $10.80 sent over. And I know he got finished his 3rd degree. So he's in the brotherhood. that I'm not in anymore. So I left, but I know a lot of Masons, and they're all good people. I have yet to. Here's the one thing I'll say: I did meet some in the Calgary that were kind of pussies, but I've yet to meet like a malevolent one. You know what I mean? For all the talk of Masons running the world and everything else, all the Masons I've met have been pretty nice guys. But they could just be fucking tricking me. Anyway, support the show. GrabAmerica.ca/support. I think is not how it works. It's probably just an extra level thing, right?
Yeah. It's just it's just used. The whole infrastructure of the Masons are used by other secret societies.
It's just a network.
Yeah.
It's like sending drugs in the mail, you know? And the mail's not involved. This is mail don't know what's going on. Anyway, America.ca/support. Please sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation today. I know you listen to us say it over and over, but it's fucking important. And we say it over and over because nobody ever listens. So sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation today if you're getting some value from a little podcast here. Of course, we do have those new CBDs as well. If you guys want to head over to GrabAmericaCBD.com. There's always all the audiobooks at adultbrain.ca. There's a store there now.
And the CBDs are not just CBD tinctures, but gummies as well.
And some THC stuff, some light THC stuff. So worth checking that out. Contact at the cabin for the trips. There's only one spot left for the Azores. A few spots left for Utah. So check that out. And I already said the audiobooks, but Gramerica Outlawed for the other podcast where we're going to unpack a lot more of this politics stuff on Wednesday, probably. A
lot of the Canadian stuff too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell everyone about the show, support the show. If you like it, if you don't, tell us that too. And maybe we'll just pack it in, pack it up, pack it in. Let me begin. And, other than that, we love you guys. You got a bio for Gough?
Yeah. Andrew Gough's website, andrewgough.co.uk. He's a London-based writer, TV presenter, and historical mysteries. The design of his website and much of its content is inspired by the honeybee, which has stimulated his work, for it symbolizes the wisdom of the ages as well as the duality of our times, mortality and regeneration, hope and despair, industry and contemplation. So I want to just read something else here too. I got an extended bio here a little bit. So he's renowned for his research on the sacred bee, but also the forgotten god of the ancients. His discoveries unveil a sacred tradition that has existed for over 100 million years, which reveals new insights into Atlantis, the labyrinth of Knossos, the Sphinx, and much more. The foundation of religion, politics, the Illuminati, and the mysterious seafarers who became the drug lords of the ancient world and rulers of the souls in the afterlife. So he's also uncovering research into the hollow earth legends occupied by ancient races who have thrived for hundreds of thousands of years and remain there today. So we touch on some of this stuff on the show, but we also get into Paul is Dead. His writing, I linked to 2 of his articles in the show notes, and the Paul is Dead one is amazing. It goes into a lot of depth. It shows some of the lyrics and the change in the musics and some of the satanic stuff in there. So yeah, he's got this co-founded Project Restoration, whose technology can locate chambers deep beneath the earth that have been preserved by these ancient races, and which seeks to unearth the priceless relics they contain for the betterment of humankind. There you go.
I could use a relic or two for the betterment of my kind, for Gramerica kind, baby. Anyway, enjoy the chat, guys, with Andrew Gough.
All right, we've got Andrew Gough with us all the way across the pond in the UK. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's terrific to be on the show. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I mean, I'd love to start off. I mean, geez, well, we should start off with a little bit about your background, I guess, because people sort of seem to know you for your inner Earth research and the restoration project. Shout out to Tim, one of our listeners who kind of connected us together, and he's like, "You got to have Andrew on." And every time, not every time, but most of the time when listeners suggest people, I try and follow through because usually it's well worth it. So
Lord
maybe
Tim?
a little. What's that?
Is it Lord Tim?
No.
No. Well, he should be a lord.
So maybe a little bit about your interest, how you got interested in the inner Earth, but then I'd love to jump into like your latest blog or your post on your website about the Beatles and Paul McCartney. So let's start with you though.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, I've done a lot of mainstream television. So I've done over 600 episodes of history and mystery programs on History Channel, Discovery Channel, you name it, BBC. But I've always been passionate about sort of historical conundrums. But I ghost wrote a good portion of the Dan Brown Companion, about half of it, about how the Dan Brown story for the Da Vinci Code was really taken or inspired by the mystery of Rennes-le-Château in the south of France. And as a joke to the person whose name is on the book, I wrote myself into the story as the person who makes this great discovery and solves the mystery. But it was just a joke. But the publisher said, "We love it. It's staying in, but you're a nobody. You need a website." So So I created a website. Then I had no content. So I wrote about how King Arthur could have been an archetype, not a real historical king. National Geographic asked me to do a documentary, the truth behind King Arthur. They flew me over helicopters in Tintagel, and that kind of started me off in the television bit.
Oh, that's so weird because we're trying to plan a trip with Randall Carlson to do both of those topics. I mean, basically the chateaus, not the chateaus, the cathedrals, basically. But I think Rennes Chateau is in that list, and also the Grail, like doing because he's got so much really good esoteric information on the Grail, and it'd be fascinating, which I'm sure overlaps with King Arthur.
Yeah, well, I'm a big proponent in taking things that everyone thinks is a mystery,
yeah,
and demystifying it. There's no mystery there. That was bollocks. It was based upon just shreds of information. But I also equally enjoy taking things that nobody thinks is a mystery, and trying to convince them that, well, look at the facts. The facts, Occam's razor tells us there's much more than meets the eye here.
Well, which category did King Arthur fall in the end?
Well, King Arthur, I mean, was it 7th century? There's a mention of Arthur. Then there's a mention of, there was a king named Arthur. Then you go a couple hundred years and someone mentions Camelot. Then you go a couple hundred years and someone mentions Guinevere, and there's a sword, an Excalibur. And by the time that it gets to like the 15th century, when Mallory is treating it, it's completely Hollywood. But it's all been romanticized. And going back to the original post that I made about King Arthur, I don't see any historical evidence that he existed necessarily. He's an archetype. He's promising to return. He's the bearer. He's, the North Star, promising
the knowledge,
to return.
the wisdom.
The 12 Knights of the Round Table, the 12 constellations in the sky, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not convinced he existed historically.
Okay, I like it. What about the inner Earth then? How does that fall? One of your main research topics. What category does that fall into?
Well, I'm researching secret societies. I'm chairman of the Historical Society that studies the mystery of Rennes-le-Château, which is the inspiration for the Dan Brown Da Vinci Code. And I'm writing about the esoteric history of bees, which is one of my favorite subjects. And I only fell into, excuse the pun, the inner Earth when I started doing my own archaeological excavation, and the combination of satellite scans and dowsing by the dowser that Exxon uses to find oil in Europe. And we've noticed that there's like these chambers at a certain level, and we're trying to excavate them. But below those chambers are really deep chambers.
Wow.
And that led me into an exploration of the inner earth. It wasn't by design. It was by actual real life projects. But I think inner earth is fascinating. And for me, it goes hand in glove with not just what's below us potentially, but what's above us, i.e. the firmament, and my belief that space, as we've been told, is fake.
Oh, wow. You're going there too. That's fascinating.
All right.
I love it.
I can
I
dig
got
it.
so many questions now, but the thing that really gets me about the inner earth is the vast array of mythological and cultural sort of talks about, like, whether it's Amenta or Sheol or the underworld or hell, or like, because I'm sure that back then they saw what was happening with volcanoes and lava coming from the underworld, and yet there was also all these ancient, Egyptian towns and Turkey. I mean, there's so many like real underground cities. And I wonder if there's a connection there with like the inner earth, like just them always thinking that, well, the inner earth is a thing, and this lava, this hellish like liquid is coming up from the inner earth as well. And how much of that is real and how much of that is built on just mythology.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many legends about the inner earth and access points to it. They're all over the world. I think Admiral Byrd is probably the best example that people can relate to, the most decorated military man in U.S. history. Operation High Jump, back in the 40s, and he was in Antarctica in the 30s and even before that. But in Operation High Jump, he kept a diary. Now, this diary is subject to debate. Is it authentic? Is it fake? It came out years after his death. But it talks about the expedition where he's in the plane, and 4 hours of being in the plane, all of a sudden he looks down and he's in Antarctica, right? A place where 50 plus nations have signed an agreement, 50 plus nations who can't agree on currency, politics, anything, but they can agree on one thing: stay the hell away from Antarctica. We'll shoot you down. We'll sink your boat. Don't even think of it. So he's on a plane there, and he's looking down and going, well, that's really weird. It's all green down there, but I'm in Antarctica. Oh, wait, hang on. That's a mammal down there. Same thing Jules Verne calls out in Journey to the Center of the Earth. And then these crafts take over his plane. They land him, and he's in this inner Earth quadrant. And that's fascinating because it's mirrored by many stories of people who have been on boats and had their ships disrupted by storms, and they end up in going through caves and inlets that take them into another world. It sounds ridiculous for the uninitiated. In the UK, there's a great example from like the 13th century of the Green Children of Woolput, where these two children appear in this little English village, and they're green. Their skin is colored green. They're wearing unusual clothes. They can't speak any recognizable language. The boy dies because he can't adjust to the diet. And the girl survives, eventually learns English, and recounts how they came from St. Martin's Land, where the sun is quite dim and it's below ground, and they heard the sound of the church bells, and that caused them to wander up a hill and to approach the sound of the church bells. And before they knew it, they were out into this other realm. And they were interviewed by like the blogger of the day. So their account, or at least the girl's account, is fascinating. And there's many accounts just like that.
And it was lots of, like, even Admiral Byrd is still such a modern example of it, because there was a whole, in the 1800s, late 1800s, We narrated the book Edidorpa, which is kind of like probably
Right.
one of the cult favorites of that sort of inner earth mythology. But there's you list a whole bunch in some of your videos. There's the Smoky God and
Exactly.
Vril and Jules Verne stuff, and there's just like a whole bunch of. It seemed like a really popular topic in the 1800s, unless that was still very esoteric, but it seemed like it was more popular. And then Admiral Byrd, of course, topping it all off.
Yeah, and Admiral Byrd, after Operation High Jump, he does this interview in a Chilean newspaper saying, I've seen that, and you watch him on YouTube. He's just a very compelling man, isn't he? I've seen that center of the great unknown. Is he talking about what's beyond the ice wall, which is a similar but different subject here that ties into what's the construct of the earth, or was he talking about the inner earth? But what he said was, that the earth could be attacked. United States could be attacked by crafts from either pole that are moving really fast. And then 8 weeks later, Roswell happens. And then as soon as he was right, as soon as Roswell happens, the CIA is constructed, Department of Defense is constructed, and the UN comes out with their map that shows continents with this Apollo wreath, like as in Apollo missions. Don't get me started on NASA. 100% lies, and it represents sort of the ice wall.
That's that map with the wreath around it.
Exactly. Yes.
That looks like what people claim is the flat Earth map kind of thing. Or?
Yeah. And I'm currently hosting a show on Unified TV called The Conspiracy Hour. And I'd like to think they told me I could talk about anything.
Nice.
And, the subjects I want to talk about are the subjects where I'll go to prison if I talk about them. They'll extradite me to Germany and put me in a prison if I talk about the Holocaust. Okay, great. I want to talk about the Holocaust then. So I want to talk about things that are censored because those are the things that have been suppressed. And you are brutally shamed if you talk about a flat Earth. Man, oh man, you get a lot of grief. So this all ties together. What's below us, potentially at the inner Earth, is part of the same construct of what's the shape of the Earth and what's above us. Every theology talks about on day 2 of creation, God created the firmament, this watery structure that protects the dry earth from the watery abyss beyond. And it's like a snow globe. You cannot leave. So whenever I hear Elon Musk, who part of me really admires, say, "Oh, we're going to Mars," I'm like, "Oh, just please stop lying to us. You can't go anywhere."
What if the firmament was a description of the vapor canopy which collapsed and that was the actual flood?
The actual flood.
No longer have it, like.
Well, 2014, the civilian aviation project, the first non-NASA funded rocket to go into space, has GoPros all over it. It goes 72 miles into space and hits something not hard, but it embeds in something. And then you watch it. It's on YouTube. You watch it for about a minute and then it falls. I can test to hit the firmament. Why do you have Van Allen, i.e. the guy they named the Van Allen belts after, sending up balloons into the sky with rockets that launch up, and they're trying to blow a hole in the firmament? Why do rockets go like this? And why do they look as though they're surfing on the water? Well, they are. Why are rainbows like this? There's this firmament above us. Enoch spoke about it, and you can't leave. Bill Nye, love him or hate him. The earth is a closed system. There is no place to go. You cannot leave.
Darren, do you have any comments about all that? You're kind of more the space guy. You're interested in all this stuff.
I'm kind of, so are you, do you think it's flat then? Like flat, or do you just think it's, because I kind of went down the flat earth thing. I can't get there. I just can't get there. But I have ended up in this weird sort of place where I'm, kind of back to believing that the Earth is probably at the center of maybe not the universe. I'm not convinced it's at the center of the universe, but I'm pretty convinced it's at the center of the solar system at a minimum. And I think that we're probably not the only thing kicking around in the universe. I think we're a trinary system. I think that's kind of what the evidence points to. We're kind of stuck in between the Mars and Sun, which is what Tycho Brahe used to say, and what Simon Shack is going to today. And I've got his book and I've got his model, and it's seemingly, and this is coming from a guy that's been like the space buff, ever since I was a kid. But the Tycho shit seemingly explains what I'm observing better than what they're, I guess it'd be Newtonian or Einstein, whoever it is. But the Tycho's model either way seems better. We don't have to average things out. It explains the retrogrades better. It just seems to do a better job at everything. I also think the idea that the Earth is moving at only 1 mile an hour through space is kind of,
Well,
sacred.
That for me, I mean, if we need further proof that NASA lies and space is fake, look at the fact that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour while it's traveling around the sun, which is 93 million miles away, although it looks to be the same size as the moon, which is 240,000 miles away. You can see clouds in front and beyond and back of both. Okay, so spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, traveling around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, while that travels around the Milky Way at 514,000 miles an hour, while we travel the universe at 1.3 million miles an hour. But the stars are in the same place every freaking night. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. That is absolute bullshit. And the only way that makes sense, well, it doesn't make sense, cannot make sense. Tell that to a 7-year-old and they'd be like, stop lying to me. The stars are in the firmament, and the moon and the sun are in our realm, and it's a construct. The only question is, where does the firmament come down? Enoch says he was there where it came down. It could be, you have this ice wall, which exists on all the old maps. I'm going to Istanbul tomorrow. I have a home there, and that's where the Piraeus map is. And I would love to get my hands on it because they don't show it anymore. You never see all of the Piraeus map, and I wonder why. Is it showing the ice wall? What are the continents beyond the ice wall? If the entrance to beyond the ice wall is in Antarctica, are we looking at Thule, Lemura, Atlantis? Are they all continents beyond? Does the ice wall end the snow globe in our realm, or does it cover the globe? Because either we're living on a much bigger surface or it's flattish. And I say that because look at the flight plans. So many flights, just look them up. Look at the long haul flights that go from A to B, but make a stop in C. And C is nowhere near A or B on a round globe, but it's right on a straight line if you're on a flat Earth. So yeah, who knows what's correct, but I just think that our history has been so airbrushed and so fabricated that you literally have to question everything and apply common sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
We're talking right now, but in Australia, they're upside down. I mean, come on. Water is not flowing out. Water always finds its level, guys. It's silliness. It's like 1984. The person who talks common sense is ridiculed for having an anti-narrative view. It's crazy.
So you must not be allowed back on regular TV then, after all.
Well, that show has not aired. It will not air. And it was an interview, and the production quality wasn't good enough because the person I was interviewing had a bad background and his audio is bad, but he destroyed the Holocaust. And it's moving at a pretty fast clip here with Trump. Love him or hate him, it'll be interesting to see what's revealed in the weeks and months and years to come.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we've already seen a difference whether the censorship is still there or not. I mean, it seems like people are allowed to talk about different things now for once in a long time. So, like, my opinion is, if we didn't have the censorship back like 8 years ago, 5 years ago, like we wouldn't have gone through what we went through. I mean, they really did have to clamp down. Otherwise, there was no way they would have got away with what they did. I mean,
well, and the day we're speaking right now, Trump has banned pronouns in the federal employees. They have to get rid of them by 5 o'clock today.
oh,
I mean, but what I think is really interesting is that all this talk, you guys are in Canada and Trump is making all these tariffs are being activated tomorrow and all this sort of stuff. And Canada is going to become another state in the United States. I think what's really funny is that it appears as though the United States is still run out of the UK. So, let's get real here. You have the City of London, which has its own mayor. The king is not allowed to enter. The king has no jurisdiction here. Charles can't do anything in the City of London. And a friend of mine who I just interviewed did a piece of business with the City of London, and he had a 8 or 9 digit finance field for the amount that they can transact on an individual transaction. And to get the business, the City of London said, you have to increase that to 14 digits. What is that? Googleplex? How many hundreds of trillions is that for one transaction? So the City of London is, there are those who think the City of London rules the United States. The United States will not be assuming Canada into its remit.
well, and yet the crown, we're still under the crown. I mean, the king, the king is still on all our paperwork. So that's just all sort of theater, and yet the City of London runs everything, including us in behind. So this is like a fake. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the United States of America went bankrupt multiple times, and the UK just reeled them back in. But we'll bail you out, but we're going to be in charge. So it'll be interesting to see because the Prime Minister here has sent like hundreds of people to the States to campaign against Trump. Has been really outspoken against Trump. And now that Trump has won, he's like, "Oh, congratulations! I can't wait to work with you."
Yeah, yeah.
And British, Churchill, who is so well liked and respected, and he changed political parties 4 times. He murdered his mother. He murdered T.E. Lawrence. He was a Satanist. Everything about him. He was hated. He was booed and rocked when he walked through stoned when he walked through the streets. People hated him, but the history's painted a different way. He's a hero.
Well, I mean, I do want to ask you about secret societies, and it might blend into all the stuff we're talking about. But what type of era are you sort of researching or interested in? Like, do you ever get into like the French Revolution and secret societies at all, or anything in the more modern times, or do you go back further into like the mystery schools and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but this esoteric history of the bee has been an obsession of mine. I was studying the secret societies in the Rennes-le-Chateau mystery, which is the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail sort of theme, and how that spills over into Girona. And I was studying with a Kabbalist in Girona who had taught Salvador Dali and Jean Cocteau, and we went to study the Rennes-le-Chateau parchments, easy for me to say. And this bee started flying around the patio, and we got to talking about bees. So I've studied bees, and bees and secret societies are so interlinked. I mean, first of all, in Egypt, what's the pharaoh's title? Beekeeper is a picture of a bee in his cartouche. Hatshepsut referred to my bee people. Neith was buried in the house of the bee. Osiris lived in the mansion of the bee, et cetera, et cetera. And then the greatest secret society of all time, the Illuminati, which Swaput in 1776 didn't choose Illuminati. His first choice for the name of his secret society was bees, but the name was already taken. So he went with Illuminati. Imagine if he had gone with bees. The French Merovingian kings, Childeric was buried with 300 gold bees in his tomb. So, the long-haired kings of France, going back to the time of David and Christ, the ethereal bee, this thread, and the most iconic monument in the United States, Washington's monument. What does it say? To our Lord, the honeybee.
Huh. What's the significance of the bee then? I mean, and there must be like a deeper
Part of
thing.
Randall Carlson's significance to all that bee and that hive stuff. He says it's because, I don't even know if I should say it really, but it definitely goes into his moon theory about the moon being artificially made.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Ellen Butler wrote a great book, Who Built the Moon? I think it's plasma. I think it's a reflection of the continents on Earth. And if you look at it, there's continents beyond ours. Whether it's a real physical place that you could visit is beyond me. I mean, NASA, how do we even accept anything they say? I mean, look at Werner von Braun, the world's greatest rocket scientist, the Nazi who becomes like the main guy at NASA. Buddies with JFK. You see them walking down the streets together, arm in arm. What does it say in his tombstone? Werner von Braun, Psalm 19:1. The handiwork of our Lord is the firmament. I'm paraphrasing, and it's the roof above us. And even the Quran talks about 7 levels of firmament, which is interesting because if you watch Blue Planet, Michael DeGarry, who filmed it, did an interview, and he talks about being on the bottom of the Gulf of America. Unbelievable, right? It doesn't come out of my mouth easily. The Gulf of Mexico, he's on the bottom of it, and he's in a submarine, and he sees a lake. And he's like, well, hang on, I'm at the bottom of the ocean. What's this lake doing? Another ocean. So they go in the submarine and try to penetrate it, but they can't. They bounce off of it. And he talks about this. You can watch it on YouTube. And they exploded his helicopter a couple days or a couple weeks later, and he's dead. But if there's 7 levels of firmaments, and watch the YouTube video, the civilian space launch in 2014, where it hits the firmament, Obama says the goal of NASA is to get beyond low Earth orbit. Well, that's like 100,000 miles above Earth. And if you went to the moon, that's 240,000 miles above Earth. What are we talking about? And you lost all the videos and you lost all the technology. Oh, come on. The whole thing is just, again, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night.
Did you come across any evidence about speaking of the Illuminati? That's what I was getting at, is the Illuminati and the French Revolution. Like I was trying to find, I kind of had whispers of it in one of these books that I narrated. I think it was Nesta Webster, maybe, or there was that one or another one. Oh, Abbe Bruel, I think. But it was hard to really like get any details of it. It seemed like they were kind of like pushing things forward or causing dissent in there. Did you ever come across anything about that?
Yeah, I haven't gone deep into it, to be honest. I know Napoleon's nickname was the Bee, but I think the French are fantastic in terms of just saying enough's enough and having an uprising and they've done that repeatedly in the past. They've done that during lockdown. They've done that during the Great Awakening, if I can still call it that.
Oh, the yellow vests before the lockdown. There's another B reference, the yellow vests.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's everywhere. And esoterically, people will have had near-death experience, hear the sound of bees. People will see apparitions at Fatima lords, they recount a sound of bees, and people say, you mean buzzing? No, I mean bees. Yoga, it's this esoteric aspect of it. As well, which is so fascinating. And there's just many examples all throughout history. And for instance, you see those statues and reliefs all over the world. Assyrian are probably most famous, and they're holding this a stone bag. And you see all those memes with Brad Pitt from Seven, what's in the bag? And I've researched that, and it says right on the reliefs that what's in the bag is pollen, and that symbolically the kings are pollinating, blessing their kingdom with the magic of pollen. So I think it's the real lost symbol, the honeybee.
That's interesting because there's been a bunch of stuff recently about how healthy honey is for you as well, and how long it lasts, but also that bees don't fly apparently with their wings so much as with resonance, like an anti-gravitical resonance.
Yeah, and scientists study it. Some of the world's greatest scientists have studied the bees' waggle dance, and just the relationship with humans. There was a great example in the UK a few decades ago. I think it was 80s or something like that, where this beekeeper used to always sing to his bees. He's all out in Gloucestershire, and always talking to his bees and taking care of them. And he dies. So when your beekeeper dies, you have to tell the bees. When you get married, you have to tell the bees, according to mythology, to legend. And they told the bees that he had died. So they buried him a few miles away, and they were putting the casket into the ground. And someone said, well, hang on, across the field come all the bees, single file.
Oh my God.
Around the grave and land on his coffin. And people are so moved. They call the newspaper, the press in, who report on the story. So there's this incredible kind of synergy. I've written about it just extensively. So sometimes I'm kind of at a loss for how to summarize just how weird the esoteric history of bee veneration is.
Well, let it be. I mean, is there anything, sorry for the pun there, but is there anything connected with the Beatles?
Well, Let It Be is a great segue into the Beatles. I have a friend who he goes out not 2 or 3 times, 7 nights a week. He goes out to shows and concerts. He's a millionaire, and he doesn't have people to go with him a lot of times. So I go with him as his wingman a lot. And he said, we're going to see Paul McCartney in December 2024. I'm like, oh, okay. And I got to, I've always liked the Beatles, but I'm not like a Beatle fanatic. And so I started researching and just Googling things about Paul McCartney. And I got really into this legend of Paul is dead. And I've just finished and published 18,000 words on the legend of Paul is dead. And I went in, again, I love applying Occam's razor, choose the most sensible explanation before jumping to aliens did it. But wow, I was so surprised with the evidence I found that suggested that we're not looking at Paul McCartney today. We're looking at somebody else.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating. We did. There was something about your article that really, really made it sink in for me, because we did a show on Paul was dead. So back in 2016 with Mike Williams from Sage of Key, I think Sage of Quay. I don't know how he pronounces it. It might be different than normal, and then we had somebody on that was the fan club president of the Beatles, and we asked her about this, and she was like, "Oh no, like she wouldn't go there at all." She was like, "Oh no, it's the real Paul McCartney." But some of the stuff that when just reading it the way you laid it out was quite amazing. When you look at all the transition in their material and the lyrical synchronicities and then even some of the the 60s counterculture stuff. I mean, because we also talked to, Dave McGowan before he passed away, who wrote the book about the, what was it called again, Darren?
The Laurel Canyon one.
Laurel Canyon. Where, it's fascinating. And yeah. And so now I'm thinking like, it's not as hard to believe now after reading your thing. So can we get into some of the details on that?
Yeah. And you know what? I just published it in early January 2025. And so I've published stuff about we live in a snow globe. Here's the inner Earth. Prairie of Zion is fake. Holy Grail's not what we think it is, et cetera, et cetera. And all of the genres, highfalutin researchers are like, yeah, love it. Cool. I'm with you. I publish 2 sentences that I have a new article examining the myth, the legend, that Paul McCartney died in the car crash in 1966. And the response is like, F you. Oh, bollocks. I'm not even going to open that. That's ridiculous. And these are esteemed researchers who can't even assimilate the fact that the most powerful secret society in 1966, Tavistock, had created a band who was worth $1 billion. One concert at Shea Stadium brought in $1.5 million, and you lose your pretty boy, famous singer and bass player. What do you do? What do you do? Do you try to milk that a little bit more? And the answer appears to be yes.
And maybe not only, like, I'm just thinking about this now, but maybe not only yes, but now we have the opportunity to control it a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah. And it gets really dark really quickly. I mean, Tavistock is this organization, the Committee of 300. They were based in London, and it's kind of like in parallel with or a subset of, I hate to use the word Illuminati because it's so overdone. But they started back in the early mid 60s, this counterculture movement, I'm not having an opinion here, but this anti-Christian, anti-family stuff that we've seen manifest in a crescendo of, again, I'm not having an opinion here, of wokeism and everything that we've seen in recent years. Where there's 75 genders and all that kind of, pronouns, and great if you like that, and great if you don't like that, but it has been by design. And the Beatles' success was predicated on their being a key element of that counterculture movement, as were the Rolling Stones, as were the Doors, as were the Who, same sort of puppet masters. And so the classic story is it's September 10th, 1966. Paul gets in an argument with the rest of the Beatles, storms out of Abbey Road Studios, gets in his little sports car, his Aston Martin, drives away angry, gets in a car crash, and he's dead. That was televised on U.S. TV and UK TV. And in U.S. television, they broadcasted during the debut of the Monkees series, and they actually identified the dead Beatle as Paul. And the evidence, okay, so what's the evidence that happened? Well, they never toured again. So 2 weeks after the alleged time that Paul died, their manager, Brian Epstein, has a breakdown due to anxiety, because they can't tour anymore, but due to anxiety, that you just swap Pauls. So how do you swap a Paul? Well, McCartney had an illness, and there's doctor reports that talk about he had severe IBS. You can see him in the film Help. He's wearing man diapers. And at least on one occasion, you can see on YouTube, when the Beatles are in concert in 65, there's someone who looks like Paul McCartney And John Lennon's walking up to him going, okay, here's the chord change. And this is what happens next. Stand over here. And so they had to have a substitute for him because he was really ill. And that's the guy that they went to, William Shepard, a session musician who was known to the Beatles. And the thought was they would just do another album and milk the revenue, milk that $1 billion nest egg a little bit more.
Was there any evidence that they killed him? Or do you think it was an accident?
Well, see, that's what's so interesting is there's a book called The Memoirs of Billy Shears, and
that's the one we did a show on, and I think it was almost 10 years ago, but I swear that in that show that he was arguing that they killed him. Is that what he was saying, Graham? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, no, you're right, and it's a 666 page book with 66 chapters. And it's written as though, I've never read anything like it. I have thousands of books. This book is the only book I've ever read that just weirded me out. The turning of every page, I was just like hypnotized by it. I couldn't believe what I was reading because it was the voice of somebody who had been there, not a fanatic, not something fraudulent. It's written in the voice of William Shepard, the guy who stepped into Paul McCartney's shoes. And there's like a couple sentences, that's all, in a footnote that says the car crash was created as a myth to hide the fact that he was murdered. And the two suspects, I think, are fascinating. One of them is called 60 If, and it's something that George Harrison, September 1966, Paul dies in a car crash, and the rest of the Beatles go shortly thereafter to India. And in fact, George Harrison and his wife, Pattie Boyd, check into the hotel in Bombay under the name of Sam Wells. And Sam Wells is the Birmingham reporter who's on the case, and he's going to bust it wide open. And Tavistock has to bribe he and his wife with a lot of money and a boat ride, a tour, a cruise to Italy. And McCartney would write about that later when he was in Wings, or Billy Shears would write about that later when he was in Wings. Sailor Sam, he came from Birmingham and he never will be found. There's all kinds of references to Sailor Sam. But I've lost my train of thought. The Beatles are in India.
About the who killed him, the car crash. So.
Yeah. So George tells everyone in India that when Paul has, when I have turned 60, and if I haven't died, release the following information. The KKK killed Paul. The KKK, you can watch it on YouTube. They're shooting at the Beatles' planes. The Beatles are saying we're more popular than Jesus, right? That's what Lennon said. And their manager is Jewish and gay. It's illegal to be gay then. So the KKK hate that. And watch the interview on YouTube. You can Google it. And when the reporter says, well, what are you going to do about it? And the KKK chap says, well, we have ways of dealing with that. So George Harrison says that it was the KKK who either was after Epstein all along and Paul just got in the way, or they said, well, we'll ruin the Beatles. We'll murder the cute one, the popular one. That's one theory. The other theory I find even more interesting. Again, it centers around Brian Epstein, who had a breakdown 2 weeks after Paul's alleged car crash. And again, Epstein was gay, but so were both of the Krays. The Krays were the biggest gangsters in the history of Europe, probably, certainly the UK. Ronnie and Reggie, and they owned all the casinos. And the Beatles were worth $1 billion. Imagine, you can't even fathom. Nobody else was earning that kind of money, and the Krays wanted part of it. And the Krays had allegedly have photographs of Epstein having sex with Dizzy Gillespie, and they were blackmailing him for that. And they wanted a piece of the Beatles, and Epstein wouldn't give it to him. So, what better way to say, okay, fine, we'll kill Paul. And by the way, even Wikipedia acknowledges that the Beatles' solicitor was murdered by the Krays while the Krays were in prison because he wouldn't help them get out of the prison sentence. So he had them knocked off. So did the Krays kill Paul? In which case, Tavistock and the Beatles were like, here's 2 fingers to you. We'll replace Paul. Take that.
What about the magical significance to the like his dreams or the synchronicities about like his dreams about him dying and then how that happened? Like how would that be? Why would they do it like that if he was having dreams?
Yeah. Well, let me touch on that and then go to the hard evidence.
Yeah.
The hard evidence is like, wow, it literally stands up in a court of law. But what you're referring to is so interesting, is that in this Memoirs of Billy Shears, the guy who's talking, who sounds like William Shepard, who is, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, that album opens with 20 years ago. And let me introduce to you the one and only Billy Shears. That's William Shepard. And because Tavistock is one of the early precursors to the Illuminati and the Satanic Cabal that has ruled the planet, according to many, for a very long time. That the Beatles were told in October 24th, 1963, in Stockholm, of all places, that if you really want to succeed beyond even what Tavistock is doing to promote you, you have to make a pledge to Satan. And by the way, this sounds nuts, guys. I mean, people who are listening, go and Google lead singer of Boyzone, all these other people who will Bob Dylan, all these other people will tell you that the music industry, they literally get the master tapes, they take them into a room and perform a satanic ceremony on the master tape. Sounds ridiculous. Google it. So many people have confirmed that. So October 1963, John and Paul performed this oath to commit to Satan in return for success, is what they say in the Memoirs of Billy Shears. And then about 2 years later, Paul McCartney starts having dreams that not only is he going to die, but he needs to find his own replacement. And all of the Beatles, his best friends in the Stones and the Who and Donovan, they all think he's nuts, but they love him. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about that. And if you look at the song lyrics, the song lyrics are the soft evidence. The album covers are the soft evidence. The Who writes the most iconic song, "The parting on the left is now the parting on the right." It refers to Billy's hair. Billy Shears, William Shepard, is 3 inches taller. They can never tour again. He's right-handed. He has to play guitar left-handed like Paul does, but there's lots of pictures of him when the camera's not on him playing guitar right-handed. But the hard evidence is there's a doctor in Miami in 1969 who says this Paul is dead stuff is bollocks. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to do a vocal analysis, and it will show you that the pre-66 and post-66 guys singing the same guy. And he came back and said, it's at least 2 different guys. The size of the throat, the structure of the throat. Okay, fine. But then you have the second of 3 major pillars of the scientific evidence, and that is the DNA. the Beatles, they fathered a lot of kids, and there's records of them. Michelle, my Belle. Paul took care of her. Paul also took care of Huber, a woman in Hamburg, who was his girlfriend for over a year. She got pregnant. He gave her 13,000 pounds, a lot of money at the time. But that child grew up to say, well, you're the wealthiest man in Britain. Don't I deserve a little bit more? I'm your daughter. And so the German judge had him do not one, but 2 DNA tests, both of which weren't even close. They failed. So the DNA of the guy you're looking at today is not the DNA of Paul McCartney. So that's the second of the 3 big scientific pillars. The third is fingerprints. Paul was arrested twice in Japan. The last time because he took a half a pound of pot when he was in Wings into Japan. And, that pissed them off. Of course it did. But what really pissed them off is they said, what's the deal with your fingerprints? Because Paul McCartney was convicted of arson when he was in Hamburg at a pub where you nail a condom to the wall and you light it on fire. Well, it burnt the whole bar down. And they took his fingerprints, and you had to get like the Secret Service equivalent in the UK to get him out of jail after 11 days in Japan, because they're like, okay, well, forget about the pot, but you're an imposter. Who are you? You're not Paul McCartney. So the hard evidence says it's a different guy. Every single interview that Paul goes on, not only does he walk into the room and he does one of these and he sits down, so he's part of the cabal. Of course he is. And he's 82. Okay. You have to forgive someone who's 82, but he can't remember the facts. He's on record as saying, I joined the most popular band in the world. You can watch him on YouTube in the outtakes of the James Corden show, where he's talking about not being Paul. And he has a breakdown. And he almost starts to cry. Graham Nash, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Again, I mention it because it's on YouTube. And he's being interviewed, and he says, well, there's people who still think that Paul McCartney was in Wings. And the person interviewing doesn't really get what he's trying to say and just kind of carries on. So I have no doubt. Oh, and his ex-wife. I mean, forget Linda Eastbourne, Linda McCartney. Paul marries again, right? And Heather Mills. Go on YouTube if it sounds like I'm making this stuff up. Heather Mills is on record as saying, holy shit. If I were to tell you the truth, you would never believe it, and they would kill me. It is so horrific. The deceit, and I'm not talking about infidelity. The deceit is unimaginable. And I have a special box with all this information. And if they knock me off, Paul, it's getting released.
Well, there's also the eyewitness accounts of the supposed crash too, and somebody seeing his body, and I mean, there's a lot of that too, right?
Well, and so I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying that those who are closer than I am to this satanic cabal, for the Beatles to become the most successful entertainment act in the history of the world, in the satanic cabal, retribution is a sacrifice. So there's a whole school of thought that says Paul didn't die. Now, Marianne Faithfull just died. There's a great example of Paul's chauffeur going to pick up Marianne Faithfull in his Aston Martin and getting a ticket for doing 140 miles an hour on the M4 between Heathrow Airport and London. Baby, you can drive my car, from Revolver. He's always letting people drive his car. And in the morgue, Brian Epstein, his manager, and his family, his parents say, that's not Paul. They bring in the dentist. The dentist says, teeth aren't right. So was that Paul, or was it somebody else? And if Paul's having these dreams that he's going to die, and he knows he made a pact with Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call it, and people think he's dead, maybe that's his clue to get out. And later in New York, I mentioned this because you can watch it on YouTube. John Lennon and Yoko are I think it's in Amsterdam. They're doing that protest against war by lying in bed, and they're reading letters they've been sent. And one of them is from a psychic warning John that he's going to get assassinated. And it also says, Paul McCartney is alive and well and living in London. What a curious thing to say when the whole world thinks that of course he's alive and living in London. Why would the psychic say that? And there's a guy who kind of looks like Paul McCartney, and some people think it's Paul McCartney, and he's just a humble guy. You can see him on YouTube, ordinary guy, kind of looks like how Paul would look at the age of 80-some.
It's crazy. Go ahead, Darren.
Any modern examples of this sort of thing happening? I mean, we're getting it all the time these days, right? Where people are like, it's a fake Biden, it's a fake this, it's a fake that. Aside from those, is there any sort of in pop culture references of people being replaced?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think it gets really dark, right? Because we know that a lot of people have doubles. Putin, Trump, they have a double because you can't go to a rally and risk your life, or you need to be two places at one. That's fine. We can all sort of get our heads around that. But it's the cloning that I find really disturbing. It's the Black Eye Club. It's this, the 666 thing, and look at Elon Musk at what was it just a couple weeks ago. And you catch him and he's applauding. And is it the inauguration? Or is it something else? And he's like, and all of a sudden he just kind of goes, malfunction, just like Lady Gaga, just like so many others. Have they been replaced? How many more celebrities, Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, Robin Williams, are going to hang themselves on a doorknob with a handkerchief? Oh, come on. Really? I mean, that's some kind of signaling. That's some kind of code. Maybe they're in witness protection now. Maybe they've revealed more about the satanic cabal's practices than
they're allowed to.
And they're allowed. So I think the answer is yes. Ringo is said to have done an interview in 2015, massively miscredited, of course it is, where he says that when Paul was replaced, they didn't know what to do. They just wanted time to figure out what to do. So we'll do one more album. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. They did Sgt. Pepper's. They did Magical Mystery Tour. A Magical Mystery Tour, the film, they started filming on exactly the 1-year anniversary of Paul's death. It shows all kinds of clues, not just the Black Coronation, but the Magical Mystery Boy is somebody with his head off. If you go to my website, or I can send it to you, but it will probably be very upsetting for your viewers to see. Paul McCartney did a song that has never appeared on an album. It's only the video, and it's 1881, 1884. I forget. That's the name of the video. And in Memoirs of Billy Shears, it says that the picture of Paul McCartney in the morgue is in there. And every frame is rapid. So I went through still frame, and it took me hours to find, and there it is. And it's on my website, and it's disgusting. Face is gone completely. You can see why the parents and Epstein would say, I don't think that's Paul. And of course, the lyrics, he blew his mind out in the car. He had to notice that the light had changed. So many lyrics about it. But again, is the car thing a setup so the Krays won't come after him, or the KKK won't come after them anymore?
Or the devil.
The devil, exactly. So did Paul fake his own death? I mean, Yeah.
I mean, and it is very weird when you look at the album covers and stuff since then, and the music changed, the tone of the music seemed to change too, and I mean, just having Crowley and there's some weird symbolism on there, like
yeah.
it's just I don't know. I was never really as open.
And this, you bring up the cover of Sergeant Pepper's. I mean, your listeners can Google it. There's tons of symbolism, but it says Beatles, Beatleso, and Leso. Well, that's not Beatles, but the Leso is spelling B at Leso, and Leso is the street in Switzerland, in the town where the woman who was with Paul was from, and on her way back, she had like a briefcase. And that's the other part of this mythology. There you can see it, is that Paul leaves Abbey Road Studios really angry, and he sees a beautiful woman who's hitchhiking in the rain, and he picks her up. And in one account, well, she definitely dies, but in one account, she's able to get out of the car, try and go get help, and come back. Then the car explodes. But be it Leso, you know, why would you put that S then O off to, come on? And it's all flowers. It's a funeral arrangement. The Rolling Stones that same year come out with Flowers. It also looks like a funeral arrangement. They're singing about the devil, the Rolling Stones. So is Bowie. I mean, all these people are part of the same counterculture movement. Officially pronounced dead. And then you can see on the back cover, Paul is like massively taller than anyone else, but he was always about the same height. If you just scroll up a little bit, you can see it there. There it is. Oops. Yeah. Paul's really tall. And to our left of Paul is George Harrison, who's pointing at the lyrics at 5 a.m. as the day begins, which is when he was allegedly murdered.
Wow. Yeah, there's so much here. What an amazing job putting all this together. I mean, it goes really deep.
Well, and, you know, thank you. I mean, and Tavistock did so much to create their success. They hired actors, busloads of actors, of young girls in particular, to go from the Bronx to JFK Airport to greet the Beatles with signs and scream and to cry. And they had a big gig, and here he is. Here they are with Jimmy Savile, the most well-known satanic pedophile. Don't get me started about the royal family. I just did a whole episode on it for a Conspiracy Hour show on Unified. And these are the people that they're holding close. And of course, if Paul didn't die, and the cabal, satanic cabal, knows that, well, retribution is in order, and they murder John. But not only do they murder John, but a Satanist murders John, who plays Beatles songs naked while asking Satan for strength to kill John. But he kills John out front of the Dakota, the building in New York, where Roman Polanski filmed Rosemary's Baby, starring Mia Farrow, who went with the Beatles in September '66 to India, was sexually harassed by the Maharaja, and the Beatles wrote songs about that. But Polanski and Sharon Tate met Yoko Ono at the same place that John Lennon did, and there's evidence that the Beatles dropped acid in Sharon Tate's house back when it was Doris Day's son or daughter owned it. And they knew Manson. Of course, Manson has Beatle lyrics, Helter Skelter, and other lyrics on the door of his sort of cult house. So it's really, really all tied in with Satanism. And you know, when people like Bob Dylan joke, you know, how did you get to be so successful for so long? You know, made a deal with the big man. Who's the big man? Well, he's the one you can't see. And he's not talking about God. Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Wow. This has been great. Andrew, is there anything you feel like we didn't get to in the last hour or so that you'd like to get out there?
Thanks for letting me meander across a bunch
that
of
was
different
great.
subjects.
We love it.
No. Well, yes, loads, but maybe another time.
Yeah, I mean, well, what's the show that people can hear you on again? What did you say it was? Conspiracy Hour?
Yeah, Conspiracy Hour on Unified TV, and my website, andrewgough.com. I don't have any products. I'm not selling anything. There's no books. There's no DVDs. All my 50 history articles are free. And yeah, if you get a chance, check out the Conspiracy Hour. It's good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll if we come out to the UK at all, we'll let you know.
Yeah, please do. Please do
one of those tours. You can do a talk or something, or yeah, you can come back on anytime too.
Yeah, no, it was loads we didn't get to. So yeah, let's do that.
What was the website again? Just can you give us the URL for our listeners in case they're too lazy?
Sure. Andrew Gough.com. AndrewGough.com. Any
social media, anything like that?
I'm banned from all social media, but you can find me on Instagram, Mr. Andrew Gough New. I had this in my head. I had someday. I'm a keen photographer. I'll have 15,000 photos on Instagram. And I have 5,000. I have 10,000. I have 13,000. Someday I'm almost at. I have 15,000. The day I posted my 15,000 photograph, they permanently deleted my account.
No way!
It was like a premonition. And I'm back now, and I'll make the most incredible photo and post it, and like 6 people see it because I'm shadow banned. So, come on, Elon.
That might change. Yeah, that might change. I mean, that might change. We're seeing things open up a little bit. So,
hopefully, I haven't gotten you guys banned by talking about some of this stuff.
No, I mean, we avoided the one big thing. I was going to go a little deeper into that.
I was in the UK. I'd be facing 100 years right now.
Tell me about it. Tell me, and how can you even control what comes into your feed? And you can go to jail for that. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Andrew, this has been great. We encourage all our listeners to go and check out your stuff, and we'll have to do this again. Maybe we can have you on our other show that has the members only section and get into some real
the stuff that you want to talk about.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I'm all in.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
thanks for coming on the show. Have a great night.
You too.
And that was a chat with Andrew Gough. What'd you think?
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, I think people are going to love his thing on the Paul is Dead and the Billy Shears stuff. I mean,
yeah, what was that? That was episode 198, was it? If people want to go back and check that one out.
Yeah, maybe it was 198. It was definitely
I think that. Let me just check the chat.
November 28th, 2016, I think, or something like that. I thought it was
number 198. Paul is Dead and the Memoirs of Billy Shears with Mike Williams. So if people want to check that out. And then that big thanks to Andrew for coming on the show from across the pond. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks, guys, if you're choosing to add some value to our production here. We rely on you guys to keep the show going. It is value for value. And so if you're getting some value from our podcast here, if you listen to all the episodes, if you like it, head over to grimerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation or share it. Or if you can't afford to support us monetarily, share the show, tell your friends about the show, spit it out on social media, whatever you can do to help us keep going so we don't go out of business around here. And some people do choose to support us. They become nobles of Grimerica. And some people do that to the tune of $1,000 or more. They become royalty or lords in Grimerica. And some, no one yet, but someone might give us 10 grand and then they get to be a god in Grimerica. First, check out GrimericaCBD.com for our new line of CBD products. We got gummies and tinctures over there. We've partnered up with True Hemp Science, so it's great stuff. Check it out. Grimerica.ca/shrooms for if you like mushrooms, gourmet ones ish. Wink, wink. Contact at thecavern.com for all of our trips. There's only one spot left for the Azores Search for Atlantis with Randall Carlson. There's only maybe 24 spots, less than 24 spots. So there's about 15 spots left for the Bonneville Adventure in Utah coming up this May. And of course, adultbrain.ca for all the audiobooks. I'm adding a few more to that page today as well. So I got a list of I've got good news, Graham. I got a list of 40 new books for you
Oh,
to add to your list. So
thanks.
adultbrain.ca. So check all that stuff out, guys. Got AmericaOutlawed.ca is that other podcast we were talking about. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
Think if I sit here long enough, it's to this green round spot on Earth, approximately 2010 year. Hello, Domini. Hello, Domini. My hot drink would turn cold. My hot drink would turn cold. Dream sequence. Dream sequence. She'd eventually roll by on her bicycle, on her bicycle, on her bicycle, basket and all. Green, brown, blue, green, brown, blue, green, brown, blue, camouflage, chameleon, baby. Woke up this morning, feeling out for my shoes. Think if I hired a million monkeys and let them mash away on some typewriters, they'd eventually write all those Shakespeare sonnets. Maybe then you'd love me. Maybe then you'd love me. Me and my monkey. Get funky. Don't get funky now. Get funky. Dream sequence, dream sequence. You'd eventually roll by on your bicycle, on your bicycle, on your bicycle, basket and all. Green, brown, blue, green, brown, blue, green, brown, blue. Mother Nature's songbirds chirping. Woke up this morning, feeling around for my shoes. I love you up to the sky. 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 Dream sequence. As you run a county sheep, I come through with some comic relief. I roll by on a tricycle, on a tricycle, on a tricycle, basket and all. Milk and honey, milk and honey, milk and honey. To be or not to be, that is the question, baby. Woke up this morning and all my blues was dead and gone.